Because Pakistan can't buy a suitable crankshaft, they can only look for parts in the recycling station. Thinking that the owner of the machine fell in love with the waste crankshaft at first sight, after the inspection of the repair shop Pakistani Changong, it is shown that such a brake can be repaired to a new one for only 2,000 rupees. Since the shaft head of the crankshaft in front of us is missing, if it needs to be spliced with other materials, Fu first needs to use a lathe to cut the cross-section of the Ningcheng twist. The main purpose is to make the cross-section completely flat. To create a good environment for subsequent splicing, after the careful cutting of the Rowan knife, it is necessary to use the wolf head to knock it off from the crankshaft. In this way, the entire end face meets the docking requirements. Because the docking of shafts needs to ensure coaxiality, in order to ensure that the splicing strength can also meet the use requirements, the center of the shaft must be drilled with a twist drill. The embedded docking not only improves the strength, but also ensures the concentricity and coaxiality of the two. It is also the most commonly used solution by Pakistani masters. The hole diameter determines the strength of the embedded docking. When drilling the hole, half of the crankshaft outer diameter should be used as the reference. Only when the two ends of the joint are embedded can the force be balanced. At the same time, after the careful cutting of the tang knife, the hole diameter of the shaft end is qualified. Considering that the crankshaft has to bear all the torsion of the engine, if it is hard connected, it may be twisted off. The inner wall of the position should be cut out with an inner hole cutter. The embedded fitting surface can also bite to achieve the purpose of increasing the splicing strength. After the thread of the crankshaft end hole is formed, Fu plans to use a truck half shaft of the same material as the main raw material for the shaft head restoration. To ensure the consistency of the hardness of the spliced material, the restored crankshaft can be more durable. In order to make the shaft rod seamlessly dock, Fu will compare the hole diameter and depth of the crankshaft end. The same data will not affect the concentricity. After repeated comparisons with the vernier cardboard, the same external thread will be engraved on the shaft rod protrusion according to the 1.5 pitch of the crankshaft end. This lathe processing looks very simple, but it tests the master's lathe processing accuracy. After all, the error of the pitch will directly lead to the failure of splicing. After the pitch of both ends is confirmed to be correct, the shaft can be unscrewed through the thread. The master can see that there is no deviation in the thread of the protruding column by twisting it with his bare hands. When the groove of the end is tightly fitted, it can be directly welded and fixed by measuring with a scraper needle. This is the confidence that Luo Wen gave to the master. Although the shaft and crankshaft are now integrated, it is obvious that the shaft head of the crankshaft not only has an amplitude, but also the overall data is very different from the shaft. Therefore, the first step is to confirm the length of the circle and then slowly control the force of the turning tool to restore the gradual amplitude of the shaft head circle to avoid affecting the normal operation of the crankshaft in the steel body. This is also the most difficult processing of this repair. The amplitude of the gradual decrease cannot have the slightest deviation. After the master marks the cutting point with a thread cutter, the threaded end of the confirmed length must be protruded to process the external thread for nut tightening. Of course, the repair shop does not have the original shaft head for comparison. The master already knows this data. Considering that the lathe processing will leave some rough marks, the entire surface must be polished smooth with a yarn wheel to ensure that the crankshaft reaches the factory state. Then the excess part at the tail end is directly cut off with an angle grinder. The scrapped crankshaft picked up from the recycling station can be used normally. What do you think of this repair technology?